Hello and welcome to the Beginner's Addendum, a companion piece for the Beginner's Guide to Eorzea. This series will contain tips and tricks that aren't super crucial to any specific role but are useful to keep in mind. For this episode we'll be talking about combat and some of its quirks you'll find in Final Fantasy XIV. Enemies often use AoE abilities during combat in Final Fantasy XIV. You can usually tell where and when these are going to hit by the cast bar, and the orange AoE marker that they'll project onto the field. However, once the animation is finished and the cast bar has disappeared, you can move into the area where the AoE was casting and not be hit even if the animation has not yet completed. For example, once this crawler finishes casting his frontal cone AoE, I can move in front, and even though the animation makes it seem that I would have been hit, the attack misses. Along the same lines, AoEs cast by yourself are a bit different than how they seem to appear. AoE attacks determine what area they'll affect as soon as the button is pressed, and not when the animation finishes. This is easier to see when we use Flash. As we run to the side and use Flash, you'll see the light animation stay at the location where we cast the initial ability, and not when the animation for casting Flash finishes. Similarly, positional attacks follow this rule as well. The game determines what angle you attack the enemy as soon as you press the button, and not when the attack animation finishes. Every job in Final Fantasy XIV has access to a damage over time ability. These abilities usually start with a weaker hit on the enemy, which then leaves a debuff on the enemy that does damage over time in set ticks. The duration of these debuffs usually comes in a multiple of 3 because the server calculates these damage ticks every 3 seconds, regardless of when they were placed. Here, Goring Blade and Circle of Scorn are both damage over time abilities, and every 3 seconds they'll deal damage to this earth sprite. Each individual tick of a dot can crit, though no exclamation mark appears between damage numbers when they do. Crowd controls such as stuns or silences are useful for debilitating enemies and not allowing them to use dangerous attacks. However, inflicting the same type of crowd control repeatedly in a short amount of time will have diminishing returns until the target becomes temporarily immune to that specific status affliction. While fighting this crawler, I use stuns to repeatedly interrupt its abilities until the point where it completely resists my stuns and I have to actually dodge the AoE abilities to avoid taking damage. And though it is rare for you to be getting stunned by enemies as well, the same stun resistance and crowd control resistance applies to you as well. Attacks usually come in one of 2 different types, physical or magical. Physical attacks can be blocked or parried either by using a shield or passive parry rates, while magical attacks cannot be blocked or parried under any circumstances. Even when I use Bulwark and Sheltron to increase my block rate, I won't be able to block any of the magical attacks this earth sprite makes. To reduce the damage I would take from magic attacks, I have to use % damage reduction abilities such as Rampart, abilities that reduce the magic damage I take such as Dark Mind, or by lowering the intelligence stat of an enemy with abilities such as Virus or Delirium. Thank you for watching the Beginner's Addendum. If you liked what you saw, please consider liking, subscribing, and commenting in the section below. If you would like to see content similar to this one, please consider clicking on the Heavensward logo to be taken to my other series, The Beginner's Guide to Eorzea. Thank you for watching, and until next time, take care.